Hi, we're going to talk about free will. What is it? Why does it feel like we have it? Why do we definitely not have it? Why we should act like we do, and why we should act like other people don't have it. Okay, it's Ftrhstry. I'm Kingdangerously. This is a time vortex. We're talking about the 2120s through the lens of the 2020s, kind of like remembering the next 100 years, so to speak. Free will is a topic that's so enormous that most of philosophy could really be titled, Why You Should Act Like You Have Free Will, Even Though You Nearly Certainly Do Not. And for that reason, it's ridiculous that we're going to try to cover it in just a few minutes, but we are going to do that. And we're going to talk about those four things. I'm going to say them again. 1, why does it feel like we have it? 2, why should we be certain that we do not have it? 3, why should we act like we do have it? And 4, why should we act like other people don't? Okay, thing 1, why does it feel like we have it? This is a tricky one. It's sort of a squishy bit to start with, but the brain is basically really good at making up stories. Like, understanding the world is the main thing your brain does. To get a look at this specific phenomenon, think about the last time you got hungry and angry, aka hangry, right? You didn't notice when it happened. It just happened. And what happens critically is that you pick a thing to be mad at. You don't get hangry in the abstract and go, oh, I must be hangry. No, you get mad at something, someone, some event in front of you, and you focus on that and you go, why is this event such a dumb-faced thing looking at me? But of course, it's not the event, it's not the person, it's not your dog's fault, it's just that you're hungry. That's it. Or you're maybe tired, or somebody was mean to you earlier today, or you've had a shitty life, like whatever it is that led you to this moment of being upset, you're upset because of that. But you'll notice critically in the moment that your brain is focused on the thing you're mad at, and you think that the thing you're mad at is causing the anger, right? That is the perceptual structure that you're experiencing. Thing has bothered me. I am now mad because thing. When in fact, it's like that, but just slightly different. It's more like you are bothered, and therefore thing bothers you, right? So there's like this circular motion that happens. So it's in that illusion that you can notice that this concept of free will sneaks in to the brain, because you think you sort of have a choice that you've made a little bit. It may just be like analogous really to the concept of free will, but this is like the kind of thing that your brain is doing. It's telling you a story to justify reality as it stands. And there is some science here you can look at. There are experiments where you can show people one thing in a visual part of their visual field that's not processing verbal information, and they can onboard that information even though they can't explicitly tell you that they've read the word. They will explain something about the word to you as if they had, but they don't know that they've seen it. So critically, they make up some other reason that they're thinking of the word because they're explaining their conscious experience. Another example of research in this field is that we can identify with some precision, down to like several nanoseconds, what decision someone's going to make in a little math game before they report being consciously aware of having made the decision. So it sort of happens on the lower floors, and that information travels up and it goes ding, oh 7, you're going to say 7. But we can catch it, actually, we can notice that before the brain notices it, which is more evidence that the brain is discovering something rather than creating it. So those are the techno mumbo jumbo explanations for why it feels like there's free will. But honestly, there's not a great answer to this question. If a computer someday does discover the answer, it's going to be like 42. You feel like you have free will because 42, because you do have the like nodular rumpus on your brain thinky regions that create the sensation of free will. Not a very satisfying answer. Honestly, it never will be, because the feeling is ineffable. 2, why do you know that you definitely do not have free will? This one you can actually do just with a thought experiment. Think about who you are right now. Think about where you were yesterday, day before that, your whole life, right? All of that stuff has led up to this moment. All of the biological material with which you are equipped, all of the historical interactions that have framed your view of the world, leading up to this moment, that's all built in. And then you factor on top of that all the lighting in this room, what you ate or didn't eat most recently, and whatever you do next is the product mathematically of all that stuff. Now, there's some disagreement as to whether we can really know what you're going to do next, even if we had all that information. And part of the reason that there's disagreement here is that it's not likely that we'd be able to know all that information to a certainty, to like a level of infinite exactitude, because at the very small particle level, you can't observe everything about a particle without influencing some other factor. This is called the uncertainty principle. Heisenberg, I believe. And basically it says that if you zoom in too much on one specific quality of a particle, you're going to influence some other quality. So you can't know its like spin and its location precisely. So that's all just to say that we have imperfect information about the world. So we're never going to be able to calculate all the factors that go into the decision that you make, the decision, right? The turning point, whatever it is. But it doesn't matter, critically. It doesn't matter that you don't know why you do what you do, because you still just do one thing. Only one thing happens. So there's some reach in some quarters for the randomness as like an escape hatch for free will, but really it's not, because if something is determined or random, there's still no room for you, for us, for me. It just is going to happen. And the opacity of the information that will dictate that next step is fundamentally irrelevant, even if it really is truly random. Like, even if it's A or B, Schrodinger's cat is dead or not, and there's really no way to know. And even if it were just like a true fate coin toss, there would be no extra wiggle room for you to make a decision in there. It's either random or it's determined, but there's no space for free will. It's an idea that you can't even imagine a circumstance in which it could be right. And that's a good thought exercise if you're looking for sort of like a bedrock on this subject. Just ask yourself what the world would have to be like such that you could confidently say that you have the freedom to choose between any two options of any kind: what to wear, who to kiss, what to eat, what to say, whether to say anything at all. If you can explain to yourself or try why you think you have that freedom, then you'll probably be likely to run up against the wall of no, you don't have that freedom. And it'll either be because you've really calculated the deterministic factors that lead your consciousness to make associative decisions based on its historic existence, or you will be contemplating the randomness of the universe and noticing that everything's just a little bit chaotic, but there's critically no real space between those things, so it doesn't super matter. That's why you don't have it. But you should act like you do, and this is like the most beautiful paradox of all time, in a way. You don't have free will, but you should act like you do have free will. And we know this because if you deflate the consciousness of any responsibility, of any agency, you're going to sort of melt onto the floor. Like your life, your responsibility for your life, your investment in your life, your decision-making processes are all going to change radically if you fully onboard to the point that you obsessively focus on your lack of free will. And this leads to sort of these like loop around conscious structures that I like to think of as like how can you help yourself? Like, how can you sort of dissociate a little bit and try to build things around your own existence in such a way as to help you make the best, quote, decision that you can. So you can use your not free will in the present to set up structures for future versions of you, which also don't have free will, to make better decisions. This is why it's effective to like put healthy foods in front of you, or clean up your room, or move your work to a place where you like to do it. Because you can I want to say manicure your space in such a way as to make it easier for your non-freedom having self to make the right decision at any given point. Oh gosh, I'm rambling. Finally, why you have to treat other people like they don't have free will. treat yourself like you do, treat them like they don't. That's a very high functioning way to approach the world. And it's very high functioning because if you imagine that you have all the responsibility, you can constantly self-analyze and improve. You can like rigorously test your own experiences in ways that make you better at the world. And if you imagine that other people do not have any freedom at all, then it's much easier to empathize with them, to forgive them, to notice what's going on that's making them do the wrong thing, or something you don't like, or something you see is hurting them. So radically onboarding this responsibility while offboarding it for others is a very effective way to move through the world. And the only caveat I would add to that is that sometimes it's really important to let your own self off the hook. And you don't want to do that permanently, perpetually, sort of live in a land of no consequences. But it is important to remember, especially when you're feeling tough, like when you're feeling like you haven't done everything that you could have, that you have been doing the best you can. And to the greatest extent possible, you should modulate and do better in the future. But remember, you're a product of the world. So it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect all the time. If you want to live in a very productive paradigm, you want to onboard as much responsibility as you can. But I think you should balance that, we all must, with some sense of empathy for ourselves as phenomena arising from existence collectively. So have empathy for each other, have empathy for ourselves, take responsibility for ourselves, and encourage other people to take responsibility for themselves. Don't go telling people that it doesn't matter what they do, like I've just done now for 10, 11 minutes. What does this all add up to? Basically just a beautiful paradox. Free will is the most useful invention our minds have ever built, but it's fake. So it is like magic in a way. It's like spirituality. It's an idea that's almost bigger than truth. It's not grounded in a B, C kind of structural reality, but it is a shape that pulls us forward, leading us up to the best heights of our potential human nature, both now and in whatever future we can make together. Thanks and good luck being nice to yourself, taking responsibility, and sharing love with others. Future out!